The month of November has become a staple for people here in the YouTube gaming reviewing community. Thanks to one particular YouTuber, this month has become a special month for many. That person is Peanut Butter Gamer, or PBG, and that month is none other than Zelda month. For the past 2 years since I've been doing YouTube, I have always been wanting to review a Zelda game, and more importantly, take part in this special month. But I never had the time.
Hey, I hate to tell you, buddy, but there's no more Zelda month.
What?
Yeah, he's done with it.
Oh, well, for alright, well, I already had all the footage recorded and the script is written, so, let's just do it anyway. In memory of Zelda month. May it rest in peace. So, I have never reviewed a Zelda game before. Honestly, I don't know what took me so long to do it, but we're finally gonna do it today. And what a better way to kick off my first Zelda review than with a Zelda game I've never played. Let's take a look at The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap. The game takes place during a celebration called the Picori Festival, and Princess Zelda is heading off to... Oh, right. I got a name Link. Okay, see what we're gonna name him. Oh, wait, I know what we're gonna name him. Sanic. Perfect. Princess Zelda is heading towards Sanic's house to... Holy shit, this was a bad idea. Princess Zelda is heading towards Sanic's house to invite him as her chaperone to the festival. While they are there, they play a few games, and Zelda even wins Sanic a shield. They then head off to watch the dueling ceremony, where the winner gets a chance to touch the legendary blade known as the Picori Blade. The victor is a man who goes by the name Vaati. He implies that he wants to release the evil power that is sealed within the chest that the Picori Blade is sealing. He fends off the guards and releases the power. Zelda and Sanic withstand the release, but Vaati, like the smart villain he is, turns Zelda into stone because he knows that she will be a problem for him in the future. He also takes out Sanic in the process as well. Sanic wakes up in Hyrule Castle and learns of the blade's condition, which is broken. Essentially, the blade is the only thing that's going to be able to make things normal and of course save Princess Zelda in her state. But since it's broken, it's useless. That is until the topic of the Picori, a race which had been thought extinct, still exists within the world, and they send Sanic in search of them as their aid. Because for some reason, only children can see the Picori because they're like fairies, and if you believe in them, they exist. On his journey to the Picori village, Sanic comes across a hat-looking thing being attacked, and after rescuing him, we are introduced to Elslo. This game's Navi, except a little more wacky, and a scaredy cat. With his help, we gain the power to shrink down to the size of the Picori that allows us to gain access to their village. From the elder of the village, we learn that in order to reforge the blade, we will need the power from the 4 elements. And from here, our main objective is set. Travel throughout Hyrule and attain the power of the elements in order to reforge the blade and save Princess Zelda from her state, and of course, stop Vaati in the process. Perfectly honest, it's a typical Zelda story. You're not gonna get much else. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the game, and that being the gameplay and presentation. That's a good segue. The best way that I can describe the way the game looks, it's essentially 2D Wind Waker, and that by no means is a terrible thing. The Zelda series has always been known for using vibrant colors to help make each location stand out on its own, which is also reflecting each setting location based on the element that resides within it. Volcanic mountains are crossed in order to get the fire element, and so on and so forth. The sprite work as well is amazingly done to help give diversity and uniqueness to the NPCs and the main characters of the game, and the animations are as flowed as they can be. The Game Boy Advance is never shy of showcasing great sprite work, and when people tell me that Minish Cap is one of the best looking portable Zelda games, I can't deny that. In fact, I have to actually admit, I actually prefer how this game looks over how the DS game used the Wind Waker style. And this isn't to put down the other portable games as well, because those look just as good for the system that they're on. I just feel like that Minish Cap is the one that uses its assets to the fullest potential, and it does a great job of just showcasing how good the Game Boy can look. Especially when you shrink down and the environment changes to fit the perspective. Small plants now look like giant trees, and it's touches like these that make me happy to see attention to detail in this way. Now, while the game looks the part, I must say the gameplay is also both fun and yet a little bit frustrating. I'll focus on the fun things first. Running, or in my case rolling around, feels very flowed and well within your control, which is always a plus in Zelda games. And the speed at which you can swing your sword makes me feel like a goddamn sword master. And the different items that you get within dungeons are fun to use as well. I especially love love the rock feather cape, which makes you jump and fly in the sky, something that isn't really normally seen in top-down Zelda games. That being said, I do have an issue with the gameplay aspect, and that is the 2-button only use. In this game, you can only use the A and B button for your 2 weapons of choice, and since more often or not you'll always have your sword equipped, those 2 buttons only go down to 1. And this isn't a new thing. Older Zelda games have done this as well, but it means you'll be going into the menus to switch out items more often than you would in any other Zelda game. I know this may not be seen as a major problem because, like I said, older Zelda games did do this, but to me it would always seem as kind of an annoyance, but it's nothing too big that would be a problem for the game. Now, of course, this is a Zelda game. The dungeons are always the prominent theme within a Zelda game, and I must say, I had a bunch of fun in some of them. Now, I still have some negative things to say about them, like how the dungeons wouldn't always convey to the player what it is that has to be done, or how some enemy placements are just downright bullshit. But we will wait a little bit longer before I get to complaining about that. And at the end of every dungeon, you will have to, what else, fight a giant boss. And they are, for the most part, fun to fight. My favorite being the 3rd dungeon's boss because of the utilization of the shrink mechanic to take down the boss. I love it when a game utilizes its mechanics in situations like this. As for my worst boss, you're gonna have to wait until the final level portion until we cover that. But for now, the 2nd worst boss will have to go to this stupidity as a fight. In principle, it could have been an exciting fight, but the fact that the boss can physically stop you from doing what it is you need to do to take him down, and making it very difficult to dodge, is a pain in the rear, and it made the fight that much more grueling. But in all honesty, they weren't all that bad, and served well as a final challenge in the dungeon. The last thing I want to talk about is the Keystone Pieces side quest. This is introduced to you in the beginning of the game, and it acts as the main collectibles throughout the game. I don't really have a huge issue with this idea, but aside from some story missions depending on this mechanic, it's completely optional whether you want to do it or not. But essentially, this is how you'll be finding most of the side items, like heart containers and such. And considering this game wants the player to go out in the world and explore rather than being a story-driven game mechanic, this does work out for the best in the game standards. Alright, so on our journey, we find now that before Eslo was the hat that we know and love now, he was a normal man who was a wise wizard. Vaati was actually a student of his that he took in. He was the one who created the cap, which Vaati uses to utilize his dark power. Well, that was a nice piece of backstory, but we gotta move on. There are more elements to collect. After collecting all the elements, Sanic and Eslo head back to the sanctuary to fuse them with the Picori blade to its fullest potential, which then gains the ability to save those who have been turned to stone by Vaati, which includes Zelda. And after fusing the blade, we are introduced to the legend of the Force of Light, which has been alluded to throughout the entire game. In short, we learn that the Force is hidden within Zelda herself. Of course, Vaati overhears this and stops Sanic in his tracks and takes over Hyrule Castle and casts it into darkness with monsters roaming around, and it becomes the final dungeon of the game. Now, for the most part, the final dungeon isn't all too difficult, except, okay, so you remember that time I said there were some enemy placements that were straight up bullshit? Welcome to that portion, because I have 2 words for you all. F***ing Dark Nuts. These are the most annoying enemies that you will encounter in the entire game. They can reflect every swing of your sword, and you have to devise a way to beat them rather than just traditional methods. Now, on a one-on-one fight, this isn't too terrible. But when you have to fight 2 of them, oh boy! It's okay though, because we got the keys, and now we can go to the final battle and take on Vaati. Oh, okay, well there's a little enemy gauntlet, that's fine. Some Zeldas have this. Alright, the first 2 weren't that hard, and oh man, one more chime of the bell is left before I have to go save Zelda. Oh, son of a bitch. So this fight is the most pain-in-the-ass thing to ever exist in this game. It's really hard to damage them because all of them will gang up on you, and spotting, let alone hitting an opening, is a challenge. Oh, and did I mention, it's f***ing timed. Yeah, if you don't do this in time, game over for you. Back to start the trial again. Well, after that monstrosity, we reach Vaati and the final battle begins. And let me tell you, this final battle, it is quite possibly the worst final battle that I've ever fought in a Zelda game. On the surface, it doesn't seem that bad. But let me tell you, when you take time to dissect this, it turns into a fucking nightmare. The first phase seems simple. Take care of the tiny orbs around him and attack his weak point. But many a time, I would feel that the boss's hitbox was just a little iffy when trying to hit it. But the first phase is is done. Now we move on to the second stage. This stage requires you to find the weak points on the boss using arrows, which is fine, and then after exploiting them, you need to make copies of yourself to attack all 4 weaknesses, and then hit the final boss. And that sounds fine if the final boss didn't constantly move around faster and faster with each hit you hit on him, and dropped obstacles which, by the way, can cause your clones to go away. You seeing the issue here? And last but not least, there's the final form, and it's okay, I guess, at least compared to the other two. It even uses the shrink mechanic, which I wish was utilized more in this game. So after taking this form down, Vaati is defeated, peace is restored in Hyrule, and that's pretty much it. Like, the story concludes, but it doesn't really, and that kind of bothers me. Oh, no, wait, actually, hold on. I forgot one very important thing about this ending. It is quite possibly the most crucial part about this game. Zelda wears a hat, and she's so god dang adorable and cute and precious, and I must protect at all times. Look at this. This was the reward for beating the game, guys. Alright, Minish Cap has a few flaws. Yeah, but all in all, it was still a very fun time all throughout the adventure. I had a blast running through the different areas in the game, and again, the dungeons and bosses were for the most part fun. The soundtrack fits the Zelda universe very well, and again, its presentation is simply gorgeous. I still haven't played every portable Zelda game out there. Oracles of Seasons and Link's Awakening are the only ones I have left to play. But that being said, as of right now, Minish Cap has become quite possibly my favorite portable Zelda game. Okay, technically that goes to Majora's Mask 3D, but I'm not counting the remakes here. If you haven't had the chance to play it yet, I say give it a try. You probably won't be disappointed.